when I think of who inspires me, the first person that comes to my mind is, of course, my mother. And I was thinking about this the other day. It's not that she went through some horrific tragedy. She didn't go through World War II like my grandmother did, or have a debilitating disease, or nothing huge happened. My mother is in a way a quiet woman leading an extraordinary life. So an ordinary to an extraordinary, I think, is the reason she inspires me, because of her tenacity to envelop herself in any given circumstance is what I find brilliant and inspiring, and something that I want to, as a woman in her early 30s, emulate in my life. So that's something that I find really fascinating about my mother, who was a physics teacher in India and then got married to her husband in a big rich household, and just moved with the flow, you know, became what she needed to be, gave up her teaching, raised her 2 kids, and then moved to Canada 13 years ago and started all over again, you know, learning a new identity, a new way of life, and taking up a job again as a teacher and creating her own self. I've always found her incredibly resilient and heroic in her way. You know, my mother, nothing phases my mother. You put her in any circumstance, she rises, which is something that I would like to carry on in my life. You know, at the moment I'm going through a bit of a rough patch with my health. To watch her unshakable spirit and indomitable faith is something that is so inspiring, because she continuously will say, you know, this Bengali phrase, which is "Hum honge kamyab," in Hindi, sorry, which means we shall overcome, you know, and it's a thing that she says all the time, over and over and over again. And as a child, I used to always be like, right, okay. And as an adult, it's amazing to see how much that has ingrained, you know. And one of my really solid moments with my mom, which felt validating, was a couple of years ago, you know, about 4 years ago, when I just had finished graduate school. I had just produced 2 of my shows. I knew I wanted to be a writer, I knew I wanted to be an actor, but the identity of that was something, you know, that was kind of thrust on me. People started calling me the Dora Award-winning playwright, or this and that, and a lot of value attached to titles. And I was trying to navigate my way through all of that. And one day on the street, my mom's a teacher, so on the street this little kid said, "Hey, Mrs. Roy," and my mom said, "Hello," and this, you know, 7-year-old kid goes, "Is that your daughter?" And my mom said, "Yeah." And he said to my daughter, and I was working retail at the time, you know, doing this little like sales job at a Canadian gift store at Yorkdale Mall, and the kid said to my mom, "What does she do?" And I immediately felt my voice contract, and I didn't know how to say, like, what do? I don't know what I do, you know. And my mom beside me, and it probably sounds like a very simple moment to somebody, but for me it was huge, where she just stood there and she went, "She's a playwright. That's what she does. She writes plays for a living, and she acts." And I literally felt like, right, okay. So that forward was something that I was able to say, you know, because people put these labels on you and give these titles and think you are all of these things when you are still trying to figure out who you are at that time, you know. So for my mom to validate that was tremendously rewarding for me. She's terrified of the dentist, literally, like terrified of the dentist. A woman who can conquer the world is scared of her dentist, you know. But even in her weaknesses, she is my mother, and she is the reason who I am, and she is the reason I'm able to be who I am every single day, and have courage and have faith through the turbulent times, because hum honge kamyab, you know, they're here, they'll go, and you just keep going.